Welcome to my channel. Today, I want to share with you a story about loving someone through their silent battles, the quiet pain of letting go without blame, and the emotional weight of walking away when your heart still wants to stay. Let's dive right into it. I never thought my world would fall apart on a random Tuesday afternoon. It wasn't raining. There was no dramatic thunderstorm. Just me, sitting on my bed, staring at a message that made everything inside me shatter. Ethan, I think I need to take a break from us. I'm not okay. I reread Lena's message over and over, hoping I misunderstood. But it was clear. There was no anger, no fight, no betrayal, just a quiet heartbreak that whispered instead of screamed. Lena was my first everything, first kiss, first date, first time I looked at someone and thought, I could really grow old with her. We met during our freshman year of college in a coffee shop near campus. I was fumbling with too many books and a hot chocolate. And she just smiled at me and said, "First week blues." That smile, it stayed with me. We had this gentle kind of love, the kind where silence wasn't awkward, and even doing nothing together felt like home. She had this way of making everything feel lighter, like the world was a little less chaotic when I was with her, and now she was gone. I remember calling her the moment I saw her message. My hands were shaking, and my chest felt tight, like someone had just vacuum-sealed my heart. She picked up on the third ring. Her voice was soft, almost guilty. "Ethan," she said, "I'm so sorry. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I just asked." "Why?" She paused. I could hear her breathing, slow and shaky. "I'm not okay," she repeated. "I've been trying to keep it together for months, but I'm exhausted. I cry at night. I can't focus. Some days, I can't even get out of bed." I froze. I didn't know. I should have known, but I didn't. "I didn't want to burden you," she added quickly. "You've been so sweet, so supportive. But I need to face this alone. I need to find myself again, without dragging you down." A part of me understood, a big part, but it didn't make it hurt any less. After we hung up, I sat in my room and cried. For 3.5 hours straight, I've never cried like that in my life. It was the kind of crying that leaves you empty. No more sobs, just silence, and the feeling that something important had been ripped away. I wasn't mad at her. How could I be? She was doing what she needed to heal, but I felt helpless, like someone I loved was sinking, and all I could do was watch from the shore. The next day, I found myself walking the same campus paths we used to take together. Every bench, every corner, every coffee shop, it all screamed her. I sat at our favorite spot under the big oak tree by the library, and for the first time in weeks, I let myself remember everything. Our late-night walks, her laugh when I made terrible puns, the way she used to tuck her hair behind her ear when she was nervous. God, I missed that. But most of all, I missed her comfort. Her presence, her being my person. I told myself I wouldn't text her, that I'd respect her space. But on day 5, I broke. I sent her a simple message. "I hope you're okay. I'm thinking of you." She didn't reply. Not that day. Not the next. I get it. She needed space, but I hated how powerless I felt. I wanted to help, to fix things, to just be there. But love doesn't always mean holding on. Sometimes it means letting go, even if it tears you apart inside. I started journaling, something Lena used to do when she felt overwhelmed. At first, it felt silly, but soon, those pages became my therapist. I wrote about the first time we danced in the rain, the first time she said "I love you," and the way her eyes sparkled when she talked about her dreams. I also wrote about the last week, the pain, the silence, the aching. But writing helped, little by little. The weight on my chest felt lighter, not gone, just bearable. I also opened up to a close friend, Jordan. I didn't want to seem weak, but Jordan surprised me. "You're not weak. Meaning, you're in love, and you lost someone you care about. That hurts. But healing isn't about pretending you're okay. It's about feeling it until you're okay." And that night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, I realized something. Lena left because she needed to find herself again. Maybe I needed to do the same. The days started blending together. Classes came and went. Friends texted, but everything felt dulled, like someone had turned down the brightness of my life. I'd smile when people talked to me, nod during lectures, but inside, I was numb. I found myself constantly checking my phone, not because I was expecting a text from Lena, but because part of me was hoping she'd say something. Anything, even just a hey, but nothing came, and I didn't blame her. She was doing the right thing for herself. But that didn't stop the ache in my chest every time my phone buzzed, and it wasn't her. I started doing something else Lena had once suggested, morning walks. She used to say, walking before the world woke up gave her peace. So I tried it. And on one of those walks, around 6:30 a.m., when the sky was still a mix of blue and sleepy pink, I saw something. A girl was sitting on the edge of the fountain near the quad, sipping tea and sketching in a notebook. She looked so calm, so still. It reminded me of Lena. But what really got me, she was sketching a couple. They were holding hands, heads leaned together, mid-laugh. I stood there longer than I meant to. Eventually, she looked up and gave a small smile. Beautiful morning, isn't it? I nodded. Yeah, kinda makes you feel like things can still be good. She paused. Rough day? I half laughed. Rough month? She didn't ask questions. She just nodded, closed her sketchbook, and said, it gets better. Maybe not tomorrow, but eventually. I never caught her name, but I held on to those words for the rest of the week. The following Friday, I did something bold. I went to the counseling center on campus. I don't know why it felt scary. Maybe because I thought asking for help meant I was weak. But walking into that room and telling a stranger, I'm not okay, was one of the bravest things I've ever done. The counselor, Ms. Hart, was gentle. She didn't pry or judge. She just listened. I told her about Lena, the breakup, how lost I felt. And then she said something that stuck with me. You loved her? That love doesn't vanish overnight. But you can love someone and still accept they're not part of your journey right now. It hit me so hard I had to blink away tears. That weekend, I found an old playlist Lena had made for me. She called it For When You Miss Me. Back then, it was a joke, something she put together when I went home for the holidays. Now, it felt like a message from the past. Her voice, her laughter, her taste in music, it all came flooding back. I sat in my room and listened to every track, one after another. And by the end, I was crying again. But this time, it wasn't from despair. It was from gratitude. Because even though it ended, I got to love her. I got to be loved by her. And not everyone gets that. A week later, Lena texted me. It was short. Just, I hope you're okay. Just wanted you to know. I think about you. I still care. I just need time. My heart did a weird little flip. I stared at the screen for a full 5 minutes before replying. Take all the time you need. I care about you too. I always will. She didn't reply after that, but it was enough. It was closure, or maybe something like it. I started focusing on myself after that. Really focusing. I joined a photography club Lena once mentioned, but never got around to trying. I went to game nights with Jordan and some new friends. I started working out again, not for a revenge body or anything dramatic, just because it made me feel stronger, more in control. Slowly, bit by bit, I began to feel like me again. Not the same me I was when I was with her, but someone new, someone a little more grown, a little more scarred, but also a little more whole. And one night, about a month after the breakup, I was walking back from the gym when I saw her. Lena, she was across the street, walking with headphones on, hands in her coat pockets, looking at the sky like it held all the answers. I didn't call out to her. I just stood there, watching, heart thudding. And then she looked up. Our eyes met. For a second, everything paused. Then she smiled. Not a big smile, just a gentle, knowing one, and I smiled back. No words, no wave, just a moment. But it was enough to know. We were both healing, in our own ways, in our own time. The weeks passed slowly, like molasses sliding down the side of a jar. Some days were okay. I laughed at jokes, went to class, ate meals like a functioning human being. Other days, I stared at the ceiling and wondered if the ache in my chest would ever leave. But the weirdest part was that Lena wasn't haunting my thoughts anymore. She was just gently present, like a soft shadow, always there, but not overpowering. Then came the night that broke me again. It was a random Thursday, and I was walking past the same fountain where I'd seen that girl sketching weeks ago. I wasn't thinking about much, just taking in the night air. Then I saw a couple sitting there, a guy and a girl, wrapped in each other's arms, laughing about something. The guy leaned down and kissed her forehead. It was such a simple moment, but it hit me like a truck. Suddenly, I was back in that space with Lena, her arms around me on cold nights. The way she'd snuggle into my chest and whisper things only I got to hear. And right there, in the middle of campus, I broke. I sat on a bench nearby, burying my face in my hands, and sobbed. Not a tear or two. I sobbed like the world had just reminded me what I'd lost. Someone eventually walked by and asked if I was okay. I nodded, even though I wasn't. Because what else could I say? I'm just grieving someone who's still alive. That's what it felt like. She wasn't gone. She just wasn't mine anymore. That night, I went home and wrote Lena a letter. I didn't send it. I just needed to get it out. Dear Lena, I miss you. Not just the romantic stuff. I miss talking to you, sitting in silence with you, even sharing dumb memes. I miss your weird laugh and how you used to hum when you were thinking. I know you needed space, and I respect that. I really do. But I wish we could have found a way to heal together. I hope you're okay. Truly. But some nights, I still wish you'd walk through my door and say, I'm ready now. Love always. Ethan. I folded the letter and slid it into my journal. And then something shifted. Maybe writing that letter was what I needed to let her go. Because the next morning, I woke up and didn't feel as heavy. I even made breakfast. Real breakfast. Eggs. Toast. Fruit. I hadn't done that in weeks. And as I sat down to eat, the sunlight pouring through my window, I thought, maybe I'm starting to breathe again. That weekend, Jordan dragged me to a trivia night at a campus bar. I wasn't in the mood, but he insisted. You need to laugh again, he said. So I went, reluctantly, and it was fun. There were laughs, terrible team names, a heated debate about which country had the most volcanoes. It's Indonesia. By the way, I didn't flirt. I wasn't ready. But for the first time in a while, I felt alive, like the world wasn't just a grayscale version of itself. And at one point, when our team won second place and we all cheered, I looked around and thought, maybe I'm going to be okay. Later that night, I found myself scrolling through my camera roll. I stumbled on a picture of Lena and me at a fall festival. She was wearing this oversized sweater, holding a caramel apple, cheeks pink from the cold. I looked so happy. I stared at it for a long time. Then, with a deep breath, I created a folder called Us and moved all our photos into it. Not deleted, just stored away. It felt symbolic, like I was saying, thank you for the memories, but it's time to move forward. And that's when I made a decision. I would write her one last message, not to win her back, not to change her mind, just to close the loop. Hey, Lena, I just wanted to say thank you for loving me when you could, for being my first, for teaching me what it feels like to be seen, really seen. I'm letting you go now, not because I don't care, but because I finally understand that loving someone also means setting them free. Take care of yourself, always. I sent it, and then I turned off my phone. I sat there in silence, letting the peace settle over me. This wasn't the ending I wanted, but maybe it was the ending I needed. The next few weeks felt different. Not easier, just different. I no longer checked my phone every hour. I no longer avoided the places where Lena and I used to hang out. I started reclaiming those spaces, one by one. I sat by the fountain again, alone this time, and watched the water ripple under the wind. I even started sketching, not well, but it felt good to try something new, something just for me. It was during one of these quiet afternoons that I ran into the girl from before, the one who had been sketching the couple. She smiled when she saw me. Hey, rough month guy. Right, I chuckled. Yeah, that's me. Slightly less rough now. She sat next to me, pulling out her notebook. That's progress. We didn't talk much after that. Just sat there, drawing in silence. And for the first time in a long time, the silence didn't feel hollow. It felt peaceful. Back at the dorm, Jordan noticed the shift too. You're different. Man, he said one night while we were playing video games, Not in a bad way. Just calmer. Lighter. I nodded. I think I'm healing. He grinned. Told you you'd get through it. And while I still had bad days, days where I missed her laugh, her smell, the way she used to say my name like it was a secret, they didn't paralyze me anymore. I could miss her and still live. That was a revelation. One afternoon, I saw a flyer for a mental health panel happening on campus. Normally, I would have walked right past it. But this time, something made me stop. The theme was, When Letting Go is Love Too. I signed up. At the panel, a few students and faculty shared their stories of loss, grief, growth, and I sat there, silently absorbing every word. One speaker, a senior named Tara, said something that I wrote down and still carry with me. Closure isn't about getting all the answers. It's about learning to live fully, even with the questions. That line hit me in the chest, because I still had questions. Why didn't Lena open up sooner? Would we have made it if she let me help? Did she still think of me? But maybe I didn't need those answers. Maybe all I needed was to accept what was and find peace within it. That night, I started writing again, not just journal entries, but pieces of myself, short stories, poems, fragments of thoughts, and eventually, I wrote something that felt like truth. She was a season in my life, not the whole story. But oh, what a beautiful season it was. I printed it, taped it above my desk, and every time I saw it, I smiled, not because I wasn't sad anymore, but because I had something worth being sad about. One rainy morning, I went to the same coffee shop where I first met Lena, not for nostalgia, just because I genuinely liked their cinnamon rolls. I ordered one, sat by the window, and watched the rain trail down the glass like nature's own slow-motion movie. And then my phone buzzed. It was Lena. Hey, Ethan, I just wanted you to know I started therapy. I'm doing better. Not perfect, but better. I think of you often. I'm rooting for you. I didn't cry. I smiled. Because she was getting help. Because she was healing. Because she reached out, not to reopen anything, but to acknowledge what we had, and that was more than I could have asked for. I replied, simple and honest. I'm proud of you. Always will be. And that was it. No promises, no plans, just mutual respect. The kind that lingers long after love fades. That night, as I walked back to my dorm, I passed a group of freshmen huddled under a single umbrella, laughing like the world was theirs. And I thought, one day, I'll fall in love again. It'll feel different. It'll be scary. But it'll also be worth it. Because if loving Lena taught me anything, it's that real love doesn't cage you. It frees you, even when it hurts. Winter rolled in quietly that year. The trees shed their colors. Students bundled up in coats. And holiday lights began blinking around campus buildings. Everything looked festive on the outside. But inside, I was simply reflective. I wasn't heartbroken anymore. But I wasn't over it either. I don't think you ever fully get over someone who mattered that much. You just learn how to carry them differently. And I carried Lena like a soft melody, tucked in the background of my life. Not dominating, just present. Around this time, I applied for a student exchange program, a semester abroad, something I never thought I'd do, but suddenly felt right. I wanted distance, not from my life, but from the version of me that only ever existed within this campus, within memories of us. When I told Jordan, he was shocked but supportive. Dude, that's actually amazing. France, Italy, were you thinking? I shrugged. Netherlands, quiet canals, good coffee, fresh start. He fist bumped me. Proud of you. Man, I smiled, really smiled, because for once, I was doing something for me. 1 week before winter break, I ran into someone unexpected, Lena, again, but this time, it wasn't random. She was standing by the entrance of the campus library, clutching a folder, looking nervous. When our eyes met, she gave me a hesitant wave. I walked over. Hey, she said. Hey, I echoed. Silence. Then she spoke, voice softer than I remembered. I heard you applied for the exchange program. Netherlands. I nodded. Yeah, just waiting on the final paperwork. She smiled faintly. That's really brave. There was something in her eyes, not regret, not sadness, just nostalgia. I'm happy for you, she added, Thanks, I said, meaning it. Then, before I could ask how she was, she reached into her folder and pulled out a sketch. I made this. Thought you might want it. It was us, sitting under the oak tree near the library. I was leaning back on my elbows. She had her head on my shoulder. It wasn't perfect, but it was real, raw, honest, beautiful. I hope it's okay, she said quietly. I just wanted you to have something. Before you go, I stared at the drawing, stunned. My chest tightened, but not painfully this time. Thank you, I said, and for a second, I wanted to ask, do you still love me? Do you miss me like I miss you sometimes? But I didn't, because this wasn't about reopening a door. It was about closing it gently. That night, I framed the drawing and put it by my desk, not as a shrine, but as a reminder that some chapters end quietly, that some people leave gracefully, and that love, real love, doesn't always have to come back to prove it existed. Sometimes it just leaves art behind. A few days later, I received confirmation I was accepted into the program. I'd be leaving mid-January. I packed my things, said my goodbyes, took photos with friends, and on my final night in the dorm, I sat down and wrote one last entry in my journal. I loved her. I lost her. I let her go. And in that process, I found myself. I closed the notebook, zipped my bag, and whispered into the empty room, "Thank you, Lena, for everything." The plane ride to Amsterdam was long, quiet, and strangely comforting. I stared out the window as clouds drifted below me, thinking about how much had changed in the last few months. If someone had told me during those first days of the breakup that I'd end up flying to another continent, alone, hopeful, whole, I would have laughed. But here I was. The first week in the Netherlands was filled with newness. New people, new streets, new smells, new silences. I walked along cobblestone paths lined with canals and houses that looked like gingerbread. I learned how to pronounce street names I could barely read. I spent quiet mornings in cafes, journaling, watching strangers pass by, and wondering how many of them were carrying heartbreaks of their own. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't carrying mine like a weight. It was just a soft memory in my coat pocket. One morning, I got a message from Jordan. Dude. She texted me. "Lena, said she saw your last post, the photo of you by the river. She said you looked at peace." I smiled. I hadn't posted that photo for her. I posted it for me, but knowing she saw it, it felt like a silent nod across the ocean. We were okay. We didn't talk again after that. No dramatic reunion, no romantic twist ending. Just closure, complete and honest, and then something unexpected happened. I met someone. Her name was Iris. She was in the same exchange program. From Denmark, tall, curious eyes, and a laugh that sounded like wind chimes. We started as classmates, then coffee buddies, then people who lingered too long after group dinners. It wasn't intense. It wasn't all-consuming. It was gentle, like warm water after a cold swim. She never asked about Lena, and I didn't offer it right away. But one night, sitting on a park bench watching bikes fly past us, I told her everything. She listened, not with pity, not with judgment, just presence. And when I finished, she placed a hand lightly over mine and said, "You loved beautifully. I hope someone does the same for you." I looked at her, and in that moment, I didn't feel guilty. I felt ready. By spring, the trees in Amsterdam were blooming again, and so was I. I no longer defined myself by what I'd lost, but by what I'd gained: strength, depth, perspective, the ability to stand in my own light without someone else casting the shadow. I still thought of Lena sometimes, when I heard a song she loved, when I saw a couple slow dancing in a plaza, when I passed by an art store that sold charcoal pencils. But it wasn't sadness anymore. It was gratitude. On my last night abroad, I sat by the canal and wrote one final letter. This one, to myself. "Dear Ethan, you made it. You survived the ache, the silence, the empty spaces. You honored what was. You let yourself fall, break, and rise again. You didn't run from love, and you didn't let heartbreak turn you bitter. That's something to be proud of. Keep going. Keep loving. Keep becoming, because the best parts of your story haven't even started yet. Love." You, and as the moonlight rippled across the water, I closed the letter, tucked it into my journal, and whispered, I'm okay now. Really, truly okay. Thanks for tuning in to Reddit Stories. New tales drop daily drama, love, or ghostly glories. Hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you won't miss the next story we tell. Got thoughts to share? Drop them below. We read them all, just so you know.